Hi, Zizaran here with another video, and this is going to be a Ziz Reflects, which is just a thought piece video thing. And I wanted to talk a little bit about monetization in gaming, pay to win, NFTs, and other things. I've gotten a lot of backlash for my pay to win opinions because a lot of people like these features in games, surprisingly. I think a lot of it is a little bit too about like disagreements about definition of pay to win. Some people, like myself, I would consider anything that changes anything about your experience of the game at all pay to win. Whereas some people only consider it's like, well, what are you winning? You have to win something. Are you better than other players? Is it like World of Tanks where you can only buy it for money? It's like, well, yeah, you can buy it for $1,000, but you could grind it for free. It only takes you 4,000 hours to grind it out. So clearly it's achievable for free, right? So there becomes a problem in the definition here, right? Some people think of it as quality of life for money. Some people are like pay to skip, but let's ignore the definitions too much. So basically, what I'm against, I don't like anything in games that alters your game experience for money. I really like when games are cosmetically monetized, where it's only cosmetics, and there are different levels to a lot of it. So let's take some examples. And a lot of people, when I start talking about this, because I'm very passionate about it. I don't like where monetization in games are going. I think it's really bad for us, the consumer. That's why I talk about it a lot. So whenever I start talking about this, a lot of people are like, "Well, by your definition, then isn't Path of Exile pay to win?" And yeah, it is. A lot of people say that as they think there's like some gotcha moment there, like, "Well, you play Path of Exile," but I've always been saying Path of Exile's pay to win. I'm not a big fan of basically creating a problem and selling the solution to the player, right? Now, stash tabs, and I would say Path of Exile is fairly low on the scale of pay to win, but you also have no way to earn this in game, right? So there are other games that might be what I would consider slightly more pay to win, but on the positive chance, you do have a way of grinding it out, even if it is a lot of hours. So that is a big downside with Path of Exile. I would still consider Path of Exile a 1 or a 2 on the pay to win scale, and more similar to buy to play, because once you've bought $60 worth of stash tabs, there's not really much of a reason more than that. And I think the total of the stash tabs that I actively use is like 80 or 100. And that's on Solo Self and on Tradely. You'd kind of need less because you can just sell things that you aren't using right now and buy them back later. I have personally played with 4 stash tabs and I got a character to like, was it 95, 98? It was awful. I hated it. And it's even worse for new players because you don't know what to keep. So the game is virtually unplayable with 4. I do wish GGD were a little bit more generous with even being able to earn 1 or 2 premium stash tabs. And that's because the last time we looked at the numbers, I think 75 or 80% of the revenue was from cosmetics and 20 or 25 was from stash tabs. So it's not like it's a huge part of their revenue too. And that is a very big part of my argument. Because if a lot of these companies were literally, if it was, yeah, we have to sell some of these features or go under, then yeah, of course. But it actually seems like a lot of these companies that are doing cosmetics are thriving and doing really well. One of the best examples of a non pay to win game is Dota, where I would give Dota a zero point 0.5 pay to win just because Dota Plus has some really good features. It's very cheap and it doesn't impact the game. And this brings us to another thing. There are some games where, like, yeah, you can buy things, but once you're in the game, it doesn't impact you. So, for example, League of Legends, you can pay to unlock heroes, but once you're in the actual game, once you're playing, it does not impact you, right? You can't buy certain abilities. Now, League of Legends is actually one of the ones I get the most flack over because I obviously consider League of Legends pay to win. There's probably some people get very defensive about their favorite companies. It's weird because I've focused on defending the consumer. It's obviously not a good thing that us, the consumer, are sold character unlocks. Um, it's definitely not the worst culprit, but definitely why I prefer Dota, and I think Dota's monetization is infinitely better because you just get all the heroes. That's not where I'm looking for progression in a game, right? I don't want my time gated behind unlocking heroes. there is obviously a reason, right? It would be good if every league player had every hero unlocked. There's no downside. You can still learn the heroes at your own pace. There's just no need for that sense of progression there. And I don't believe the League of Legends profit numbers are public, but I would bet a pretty sizable amount that the majority of the Riot income is from skins anyway, and not from the hero unlocks. And it's also a very large amount of time needed to unlock all the heroes if you do want all of them. And there are obviously advantages to having a lot of heroes unlocked, like counter picking, trading with other people on the team. So you know, and this is why I'm not a huge fan of where monetization is going in games, because it's either that they're creating problems and selling our own time back to us, or creating artificial problems and selling us the ability to bypass them and skip them and stuff. And that's what I'm not a big fan of. That's why I try to be so critical of it. Now, a lot of the games are still fairly okay. They're fair in a lot of ways, right? Like Lost Ark, I had a discussion with Sivo and Saintone, and for the majority of players, it's not too bad. It mostly seems like you only need to spend a lot of money if you want to be like a rank 1 raider or top 10, top 5. Then it does seem like you are incentivized to use money on Lost Ark. But for the majority of players that just want to play, it seems pretty okay and grindable, right? That's why it's gotten a lot of love in Korea, because normally non-paying players are treated like dirt. Now, a lot of this I'm gonna have to see as well by playing Lost Ark long term, and I do want to be one of those people that do want to be top 5, top 10. And if I feel like I can't do that without paying money, that's definitely gonna ruin it a little bit for me. But we're just seeing more and more of this. And we had a recent thing in New World, where New World were about to start selling paid boosts, and there was a huge uprising. People were really upset. They were like, "Whoa, we don't want our own time sold back to us." And the huge problem with this too is that very often, not always, but very often, they end up making the normal free experience worse to incentivize that you're paying anyway. So that's part of the problem, right? That's the core issue, is that they're making artificial problems to make money better. There are other things as well that I'm pretty against. Mystery boxes. No matter what, mystery boxes are predatory. They prey on the fear of missing out, and like, oh, you can only get this by gambling, and they incentivize gambling to people and normalize it when gambling is a really real issue. Part of the reason why I've never taken a gambling sponsorship is also I had a friend who almost had his life ruined by gambling. And it's a very real problem and an addiction, especially when you start trying to win something back, or sunken cost fallacy, where you're like, well, I've already invested 200 in this. Then you would invest another 200. It's like, well, now I'm $400 deep and I don't have it. It would all have been for nothing if I don't get this one thing. And suddenly you're a few $1,000s deep. I would say the least predatory mystery boxes I've seen is Path of Exile. I'm still very against these as well. The reason I think they're less predatory is because they're just stupid tax. They all the cosmetics in the mystery boxes are released 1 month, or is it 3 months later? Anyway, so you do get them for whatever normal price there is. They're still expensive, obviously, but they're also only cosmetic, and you do at a certain time get them. So you can pay stupid tax, like I've done before. I'm trying to avoid buying mystery boxes lately. I am getting free ones too. They give me 36 free ones to advertise them every season. And I've been going back and forth with myself. Should I take them? Should I not? Is it hypocritical? But at least they are just stupid tax. But I don't know. I do like free shit, obviously. I'm just trying to like air out my thoughts here. But yeah, I find it very frustrating, a lot of where it's going in games. And now we're seeing NFTs come in. Now, if you don't know what NFTs are, I love this analogy. When somebody will sell you a star, you can buy a star in the universe. You'll even get like coordinates to the star and stuff. Obviously, they don't actually own that star. And it's just this cutesy little thing for $100 or $50. You have a certificate that you own a star. And hopefully the aliens won't show up and be like, what the fuck? You just sold our planet for $50, bro? It's kind of like that, but it's a receipt. It's a receipt that's saying I claim I own this. But it's also like part of a Bitcoin, or sorry, very often it's Ethereum, and it's part of a blockchain, and it's supposed to confirm that you own this. I'm very against NFTs and their current implementations. I don't like them at all, because right now it's a hammer looking for a nail, right? There is no problem that NFTs are solving. All the things that people have mentioned, like, oh, this can be solved by NFTs. It's like, yeah, it can also be solved without NFTs. And that makes them bad because NFTs, they're resource intensive. They have to be mined. And especially until it gets more environmentally friendly to mine them, I do think it's very funny. People care so much about the environment and they don't often. People are very hypocritical where they care about the environment. But I think it's extra important to care about it here because it's not necessary. Very unnecessary. It's mostly about investment. You can absolutely make money on getting in early on these like Ponzi schemes and stuff like that, right? You can absolutely get rich off these, but it's at the cost of other people. I guess everything is if you think about it that way. But yeah, you can absolutely make a lot of money getting in early, getting out at the right time. Of course you can. But that's the entire problem for me. It's all about a huge risk in an investment. It's not about cool technology. Who the fuck cares about these stupid JPEGs, right? They're dumb as fuck. And will there be good applications eventually? I don't know. But I definitely hate the way it is right now because now it's a lot of preying on FOMO. A lot of people are like, oh, well, I missed out on Bitcoin. I could have gotten rich. I remember joking about people when they were $5 each. Now they're 100,000 or whatever. So it's preying on that, right? It's trying to get people like, well, do you want to miss out on another Bitcoin? You got to invest now. Buy this $20,000 JPEG. It'll be worth 100,000 in a year. And we see a lot of people getting burnt by this. I just don't like where the trend is going to go in games, where they're just going to be a new layer of mystery boxes. You know, I just want games to be about games. I don't want investment opportunities in my games. I want to play games and kill people. So for me, it's been very, very frustrating. I think to this day, I've turned down over 200,000 US dollars in NFT sponsorships. That is not an exaggeration. It's just a lot, an insane amount. There have been platforms asking to, hey, we want to sell your clips for money. And I'm like, why? What the fuck is someone gonna do with owning a clip? Do they own that specific clip? Sometimes there's 100 people that'll clip the same moment. What a pointless feature. Why would I sell this to my audience? And you might wonder a little bit like, well, why are the people who are into NFTs defending it so hard, right? They seem almost fanatical. Well, they kind of have to be because some of these people have invested 10 or 50 or hundreds of thousands of dollars into this, and they have to convince other people that it is worth something so that it goes up, so that they don't lose the money, right? Because if this doesn't catch on, then they've invested $100,000 in something that's worth, well, nothing. So that if you're ever surprised why they are defending it so hard, that's why. And I get that. It's shitty to be stuck holding the bag. But it's not really a good investment to begin with. And there's other things too that are happening. We can talk a little bit about Lost Ark. A lot of people are, in my opinion, downplaying the early start. A lot of people said, well, it's an MMO. A 2 or 3 day head start isn't important. But there's not really a real reason to have it in the first place. Let's say it's completely free to play, right? Games like that generally do insanely well on monetization of skins. And very often, people will be more than happy to spend 30, 50, 60, or even several $100s on skins when they feel like they're getting treated well by a video game. And then the people that actually are poor and cannot afford games or maybe live in countries where, a $20 for a game or for skins in a game is like several months of food. Those people that genuinely can't afford it can enjoy it for free and enjoy it at the same level that the rest be like everybody deserves time off and time for gaming. So I don't like it if it gets to the point with it's like, well, fuck the poor, right? Because real life is already unfair, very unfair. Like wealth inequality in real life is insane, and I don't want that to be in gaming. I don't want like I have money. I can absolutely, if there was a game that was pay to win, obviously I could chuck down a few $100s and get an advantage. But I want everybody to have the same, right? It's your effort in the game should be what it's all about. I know that some people will use the argument, well, it's like, well, Zizaran, I work 16 hours a day. I only have 2 hours to play. Shouldn't I be allowed to use that money and get an advantage? Well, no, fuck you. I'm sorry. I just really, I might be harsh, but play when you have spare time. I really, really want, at least in all the games I play, that everyone has the same experience, regardless of who and what they are in real life. That's always what's been so important to me about gaming. No one ever cared like what I was in real life. I remember I was 16 or 18, being a guild leader, alliance leader in multiple games I played. Nobody cared If I was poor, if I was rich, if I was a student, if I was a general in the US Army, they just cared about who I was in the game. And to me, that is what makes gaming so special. And I don't want that to go anywhere. Let me know how you feel. It's not necessarily the right opinion, but it is my opinion. You can disagree with it. And let's try to be respectful. There are some people that love pay to win in games. There are some people that are like, you know what? I have worked my ass off in real life. I want to use $1,000 to have an advantage over the people that can't. That's someone else's opinion. I disagree with it profusely, but people are entitled to have different opinions. I think that's very important. So I would love to hear and see what you guys feel about it. Whether you like pay to convenience, pay to skip, pay to win straight up. And again, just definitions aren't important. Try to outline more like what you do or don't like. Personally, to end it and wrap it up, I think any game that I'm going to play long term, I think it's almost imperative that they are able to monetize long term customers. If it's a game like Skyrim or Witcher, that is something you generally, for most people, will play 50 to 100 hours and then drop. Those games are okay as being buy to play. You buy it once. It does not need, maybe it gets an expansion or a DLC later that's paid. That's fine. However, anything that has like an MMO feeling or a online persistent world, something I'm going to be spending hundreds or thousands of hours in, this needs to have long-term monetization and ideally cosmetic. Because if not, you end up with a Diablo 3 scenario where the developers have no reason to further develop the game because it's not going to bring enough revenue to sustain everything they're doing. So I think I would rather have buy to play with cosmetics than than a game that is just buy to play. If it's anything long term, it's just so important for a game that I'm going to play long term that they can continue development or the game will die. And that's happened to several games I've played that had very bad monetization options. So I think there is enough room for companies to make money and people to be happy. Just wanted to make this video. I talk about it a lot on stream, something I think a lot about. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Try to die less than I do.